Good, whatever. I don't know what it is. It's let's see. It's 12:45 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going with a European look today, by the way. 12:45 p.m. Pacific time. Let me see if I can get that. It is 3:45 Eastern time. It is 2:45 p.m. in Chicago. It's 1:45 in Denver, and I think it's 9:45 a.m. in Honolulu. How do you like that? Greetings. Just wanted to make a somewhat fun one. I said I'd continually update about audit and other business at GTII, so I'm going to do that. Talk about a little bit about Alpine, and then continuing on my use of AI, at least Claude primarily, to see which jokes are best, because that's in life, that's what's more important than good jokes. But as opposed to where I usually start off with the jokes, I will end with the jokes. So I wanted to go over a few things. Two things that kind of struck me is there's a, just so we're clear before I start, there is a stock called Incoherent. I think it's like a AI related stock. And some guy last week asked me if I was incoherent. And I said yes and yes, just so we're clear about that. So what did I want to talk about? So let's talk about the things that I've promised to update you upon on a regular basis so everybody knows what's going on or not going on. So let's talk about the audit. I've heard nothing new. Now, do I expect to hear anything like daily? No, but maybe we'd be surprised. And whoever is involved in preparation of the audit, and I asked to be included, by the way. I don't know if I said that before, but now I'm saying it. So at some point in time, after they were getting rid of or about to get rid of the last auditor, I suggested that there be a 3-person shareholder group that kind of acted to oversee the audit process. I thought it was a great idea. I pat myself on the back for it, but it didn't go anywhere. But I still think it's a good idea. So, and that way, if like the audit was ongoing, we'd be able to communicate with the auditor, and if there were any shenanigans or delay or whatever going on, we'd be able to communicate that and stay on top of it. Otherwise, we're stuck getting reports from the receiver, who obviously didn't manage, or at least my opinion. This is all opinion, not legal advice, all this nonsense. A lot of it's opinion. I'm full of opinion and speculation. That's all that we're getting here. No facts. Don't rely upon anything that is said, because nothing is factual. It's all opinion and all speculation, as has been my opinion about GTII since very early 2024. So you can judge my opinion and speculation how they've turned out, but just my opinion. And so we're waiting on the audit. I hope that the receiver reports regularly about the audit. And he's got to go into court on June 17th. So it'd be nice if he reported before the 17th, so we know what's going on. Obviously, I'm making an issue of it. I know he said 120 days, and that's about 30 days have gone by now. So according to what he said last time, now you have to take that into account, that he also gave us all kinds of timelines about the audit before that. But as to the current timeline, he said 120 days, about 30 days have elapsed. So that would be about 90 more days to complete all the necessary audits, plus the last year's audit, is what he represented in court as far as I can recall. So let's see if that goes on, and I'm just going to let him know that's the time frame. That's what I expect him, and expect performance. And if it's not going to be that, he should immediately disclose that. And if you recall, that was also the issue, is that he said, even though there was only 10 grand left in the bank accounts, that somehow he could raise money to get it done. That it sounded like that GTII had some credit facilities available. They could borrow money. And if that's the case, then I hope they don't make any foolish settlements. That was kind of my thesis here. But again, so we're like 30 days in. I think, be appropriate is like at a minimum, every 2 weeks, report about what's going on. That way, there's no confusion. Nothing's going to get by anybody. If that had been done prior, then when there were obvious issues, even though I disclosed that and contacted the Receivers Council multiple times about it, if it was a more publicly disclosed, transparent process, then others out there would be able to jump on it and the court would have been more aware of it. And anyway, so I still think it's a good idea if they report no more than every 2 weeks about the ongoing audit, and they don't have to do that in court because they'll get to do that every the other 2 weeks. So I'm suggesting that I think they should do that and report on status, and that if everything's okay, and if time frame changes, immediately report that, not wait to the last minute. So that's one thing. The second part, and I haven't heard anything further about this, and I said I'd discuss it when, just as we went, same thing, is I haven't heard anything further about AI-versity, that transaction. I haven't heard about any other deal. I haven't heard any disclosure made to the court or any filing made to the court saying that the AI-versity deal is done. I think I put out a tweet, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember what the tweet was. I think it's basically the same issue as there's no, why don't we just clear the decks if there's no AI-versity deal? And then Forster, I think, replied that he hadn't heard, I don't remember the specific language, but the general language was he hadn't heard from them in many, many months. Many months is more than 3 or 4 or 5. So I would think that if you're involved in a transaction and you haven't spoken to the other side in many, many months, that might suggest the status of the transaction. And I think, again, the receiver in open court suggested that the deal was dead. So the deal's dead, then mark it so somebody else can take its place. And because perhaps another deal will bring in something. Again, I don't know what the credit facility that they were talking about. Perhaps there's other ways to bring, I don't know, other credit in or whatever, other assets. I don't know. But with the block of AI-versity, either if they're going to go forward the deal or not, pierced or not, so just clear the deck so everybody else has access. And again, I'm going to continue to push because they haven't spoken about that, other than I think the receiver several months ago, again, spoke very negatively about the status of the deal at that time, about dilution, about change in terms. Certainly very unfavorable presentation related to his interest in pursuing it in light of what Forster did, or his remark on the email that he hadn't spoken for many months. And again, I don't remember if it was many months or many months, but certainly it sounded like an extended period of time, 6 months, I don't know. Doesn't sound like there's any chance that AI-versity deal is going to get done. So clear the slate so there's other deals out there. And I know that there's interest, because I think I mentioned that a very large shareholder contacted me last week, kind of following up with me or checking out. I guess he saw some tweets and he was following up and he wanted to know what was going on. So I spoke to him for a little while. So he was interested also about what's going on in terms of, business side, what's going on in terms of the completion of the audit and the business. And if you recall, or if you don't recall, now you're going to hear that he thought, or he was concerned that, and again, this is him, not me, his concern was, although I've expressed the same view before also in some respects, his concern is in a receivership, and in this one, as an example, that he doesn't want the case to be that the receiver takes all the money, or not all the money, but his share, and the others go to professionals, and all the monies are used up. Now, you could legitimately say that's appropriate, but for shareholders, that doesn't do us, I'd say, a 4-letter word that starts with a D, but I won't say that word that starts with a D. So I could see you rationalizing, if you did the legal job good, and if the receiver did his job and closed out the receivership, got paid his monetary fee, and where the company was, I don't know, they might think that is successful, and we might think that is not. So there's quite a distinction there. So let me move on to another point related to that. And I referenced before, and we haven't seen it yet. So I think I heard about it maybe a week ago or 10 days ago, or I saw it. It was an extension of the time to have the deal done with Reichman to June 30th. And then I've kind of put out a couple of, again, I'm not hiding anything, but I put out a couple of live streams where I discussed that, at some point in time, I understand the I really understand the practicalities of settling cases. And I understand that sometimes parties get what maybe people think they shouldn't get, don't deserve to get. But in this case, I would have trouble if one of the main principals got a financial benefit, or I shouldn't say a financial benefit, it's going to all depend on the terms, but any kind of significant material financial benefit out of this after all that's gone on. I would be concerned about that. And I might have to, and it may be contrary to what you guys think, but I might have to take a position against that kind of settlement. Now, the problem with that is, and it kind of goes back to something I said, is that settlement, and again, I'm pure speculation on my part, so that settlement might be the necessity to fund the legal fees and for the receiver to get paid. So there may be reasons why the receivership wants to settle. And those might be conceivably in conflict with, well, one, certainly in conflict with ethics, because if what the receiver has reported is true, then there's no way that the person they reported about should get anything. If what the receiver says is not true, then I don't know what we're doing here, to be honest. But I'm going to closely scrutinize that. And I noticed that we're June 7th. We haven't heard anything further. I wonder if the receivership has taken that into account and is trying to perhaps make the terms more favorable to the receivership so they can justify any settlement. Again, my concern is that any settlement will go just for the benefit of the professionals and the receiver through his 10% share. Maybe there's other benefits, but that's my concern, because I don't think the shareholders benefit at all, other than the fact that the professionals get paid. But at some point in time, the professionals may stop working. If they're not paid, they may not carry, because my guess, since there's no money, and again, there's not been a specific accounting about this, but my guess, I guess I'm going to ask, I will ask this question: what the current, how much is currently owed to the attorneys? I will send an email to Dylan when I complete this. But I still think there's a lot of money owed, and I don't think there's a lot of money to be paid. And I don't want just settling out with someone that the receiver is characterized as a bad guy to be basically exit liquidity for the professionals and for the receiver. So I'm going to be, like, again, closely scrutinizing any settlement with I think the last two remaining potential parties, one in particular, obviously. And anyway, I'm throwing that out there. And again, that's contrary to my general philosophy that I would be willing, because usually it's an issue of legal fees. But the fact that the receiver indicated that there was some source of credit for GTII, perhaps if you don't do such a crappy deal, or you do a more aggressive deal, you can also use your credit facilities to fund whatever you need to fund. So that remains to be seen, because we will see what it is. Alpine, I haven't got to the jokes yet. Alpine, so I spoke about this in the past. Dylan got back to me. I asked him, what's going on about Alpine. He said they're kind of now, they didn't like his characterization. I don't know what characterization they're referring to. And this would go to GTII and MMTLP because of the DTCCC. But so my understanding is there were prior subpoenas issued to the DTCC and to Alpine. Alpine responded with documents, and I think that's how it was discovered, or I believe, or I'm speculating, that's how it was discovered. There were 15 accounts that were either apparently, according to the receiver, owned or controlled by Reichman or related entities or trusts or something like that. So the DTCCCC, unfortunately, took a position that the court didn't really have any jurisdiction over it and they didn't have to do anything. Then there was a hearing about a couple of weeks ago where, on a motion that was filed by the receiver, they sought a confirmation from the court in Vegas that they had jurisdiction and they were allowed to go forward with the discovery against the DTCC and Alpine. And there was prior discussion about an Alpine representative testifying at a deposition and two members, I believe, of the DTCCCC testifying in deposition also. But DTCC objected, and now there's a process whereby new subpoenas are going to be issued. Apparently, and I don't know if the subpoena was issued yet or there was discussion, Alpine kind of changed its tune a little bit, and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on in the background, because who knows what's going on in the background. They kind of said they didn't like the characterization, how, I think this is what Dylan said, how the receivership characterized Alpine. I don't know what that means. But I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means they're not going to be cooperative and they're going to have to be chased down, which doesn't shock me. And I don't know the status of the new subpoenas on the DTCC. But I know that Dylan had indicated that new subpoenas would be issued by the DTCC. Now, what I don't want to see, and then I'll get to the questions. What I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see a big gap in time where, because the receivership isn't paying the professionals, the work slows down. So on one hand, they're trying, this is my speculation, in part, they're trying to settle the case and raise cash to pay the professionals and for the receiver to get his 10%. On the flip side, I don't want that to be done unless it makes sense. And I don't want it to be done to the detriment of shareholders. So we'll just have to wait and see. I expect that either in the next week or two, I'd expect within the next week, there'll be some either announcement of some settlement or another extension of time to work out something. Probably because it's a difficult thing to resolve. And it may be that one of the parties is not being easy. So it may not be the fault of the receivership, but it may be just difficult, and it may just be a completely practical solution. And again, the receiver and the receivership and the professionals are not in the same position as any of us, because they don't really give in my opinion, they may personally care, but I don't think they really care. It's just another client. I know I can understand their perspective. Just another client, it's work, understood. But from our perspective, if they engage in something that doesn't benefit the shareholders, it doesn't benefit the shareholders, and you and I are gonna call it out. Now, additionally, on top of that, generally in response to my question to Dylan, he asked if I was going to ask questions at the deposition. I said probably, but probably less than 30 minutes, because I would assume that you'll take up most of the time. So we'll see how that goes. First of all, we have to see the depositions go forward. Second of all, let's see if in line with the question that the proceedings go as taken. But I'm going to be prepared for I don't know, 30 minutes of questioning. So I threw out a tweet on X asking for both GTII and MMTLP people, because if we're before DTCCC, it would be interesting, and Alpine because of the shorting aspect. I asked a general question. Give me a general question that covers both tickers involving DTCC. And if you want to be specific to GTII, I'm happy with that. But give me one objective, non-accusational, that's not a word, obviously, non-accusatory question that I can pass on or use myself and claim it's mine. I would appreciate it, and it might be helpful for everybody to kind of give it some thought and see what one question, what one thing is kind of they want to know. And we'll see. We'll see if I expect that all these parties will object to discovery and push back and not be easy and not kind of walk. But the judge, one good thing, one thing about the judge, he seems to be interested in letting the receiver pursue examination of Alpine DTCC. So that's good, because if he didn't, we wouldn't be able to pursue it any farther. So I think that's a positive. And when I know about the depositions, where they are going to be, how it's going to be conducted, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, if you want to kind of provide your thoughts. So if you comment to this particular stream, whenever you comment, put in a question that you'd like to ask, a real question, concise as possible, not argumentative, about, could either be generally something that covers GTII and MMTLP or specifically about GTII. And, because I'm going to pass those on. The ones that I'm not going to ask, I am going to pass on to Dylan to see if he wants to ask those. So let's leave it at that. So last but not least, let's this is like a complete change of pace. So now we're going to go to the joke portion. If you recall, if you were paying attention in prior episodes, I've started to use AI for joke purposes, because what better purpose could Claude, that's Anthropic's model, and it has various versions, and I'm using multiple versions of it, which I'm paying for, by the way. I'm using multiple versions of it to see the difference in quality of jokes and then presenting it to you guys, because there, again, everybody gets concerned about, AI and data centers and energy, but the real import and space travel, going to Mars, all that stuff. But we all know that the real value of AI is jokes, joke telling. There's no other way. So I also wanted to focus this week's jokes towards a more female audience. I don't know how many females actually watch. I don't. All three of you. Could be more than three. But this was kind of like directed at more a female perspective. At least that was my intention. We'll see how it plays out. And I was kind of like moved by the experience, like my wife loves, it used to be more so, loved chocolate. And when we used to go to Las Vegas, because it's not far from LA, if you happen to take a weekend trip, they used to have something called the FLM chocolate factory, and they made these chocolates, and these chocolates were really high quality. And I swear that even if the Beatles were doing a reunion concert, that if it was a choice between really good chocolate and the Beatles, she'd go for the chocolate. And my experience with all the millions of women that I've dealt with over my years is they have a special relationship with chocolate, almost a sexual relationship with chocolate. At least my experience is. Maybe I have kind of a unique experience. So if none of you have ever had that interaction with women and how they react to chocolate, then there she goes. But I think women have a special relationship with chocolate. So what I did is I used, and we're going to do 10 of these. What I did was I looked for chocolate. I looked for, I'm just going to read what I asked and we'll see what, then I'll just read the jokes and then I'll tell you the next one and we'll go from there. So my question was, and this was on Claude 4.6, right? And you know, I think what I asked is kind of funny, my opinion, but write 5 hilarious one-line puns about quartz, but include chocolate in each hilarious jokes. So the 5 jokes for the model 4.6 about quartz, but using chocolate in there. 1, the judge loved chocolate so much, he always ruled in fudgment. 2, the basketball court was made of chocolate. The players kept dribbling. 3, the chocolate layer was great in court. He always had a sweet case. 4, the tennis player brought chocolate to court because he heard the volleys come with a bounty. And 5, the chocolate witness was dismissed. The judge said his testimony was too mousy to be credible. All right. So 5 of those, I thought maybe 1.4 was passable. Far worse than what I could do, by the way. So 4.6 on chocolate court jokes, you know, whatever. So I kind of went to 4.8, the next model up, which is Opus. And I changed the, I said, look at, well, I'll tell you what the inquiry here was. Jokes above are terrible. Please do better with the same instructions. So it took those terrible jokes. It took what I said that they were terrible and said, do better. So let's see if you think these are better. Again, these are jokes about quartz, but must include chocolate. Number 1, my lawyer finally passed the bar, then unwrapped it and ate it. 2, the court found the chocolate guilty on all counts. Turns out it was the whole jury's guilty pleasure. 3, the swindler got his just desserts in the end, court ordered and chocolate. 4, order of the court, barked the judge. So I asked for a large hot chocolate. And last but not least, the dark chocolate lost its appeal in court. The jury found it too bitter. So between the two, I think 4.8 was far superior to 4.6. So if 4.6 was a 3, I'd give 4.8 a 5. You could rank it as you feel. And if there's any jokes in there that you want to use in your stand-up, you have my authorization and invitation to use them. And that's about all I got to say. So you guys can go back and enjoy your Sundays wherever you are. Hope the weather is good where you are in SoCal. It is a gorgeous day in high 70s, blue skies where I am. Nice breeze too. So really nice. But anyway, hope you all are well. I will keep you apprised, obviously, as I hear any further details about the audit and any other business and anything else that applies. And until then, have a good day and see you soon. And that's it, all folks. That is.